Hello and welcome back to SFF180 and the 10th installment of the 12 Days of Halloween 2017. Tonight, a journalist and former chaplain in Reconstruction-era Vermont travels to a remote country house whose owners hold seances and are said to commune with the dead through a spirit cabinet in Moriah. Thank you all for joining me. Once again, Thomas here, your host, as always. In the Old Testament, Moriah is the name of the mountain where Abraham took his son Isaac to be sacrificed in what is probably the most horrifying exercise in divine trolling in all religious literature. Next to all those human women Zeus is supposed to have, well, you know. In Daniel Mills' brooding new novel, it's the name of a rural Vermont town in 1874, where Silas Flood, a Union vet, former Army chaplain, and current journalist, travels to investigate the Yellow House and its owners, the brothers Thaddeus and Ambrose Lynch. A craze in spiritualism was spreading far and wide in the late 1800s, due in large part to the alienation of the emerging Industrial Revolution and a sense of the loss of traditional values in a world where more and more people were shifting to congested urban centers. Legendary escape artist Harry Houdini was also a prominent skeptical debunker of paranormal frauds. He was the James Randi of his day. The Lynch brothers are said to be the genuine article spiritualists who commune with the departed through seances and the use of a spirit cabinet, kind of a closed-off piece of stage where the medium was said to be able to concentrate their psychic energy. It's a handy place to hide props and things. Silas Flood arrives at the sprawling property of the Yellow House in the summer of 1874. After an ominous event, a child is struck by his train, delays his arrival by nearly a day. He meets both brothers. Thaddeus is curt and almost dismissive, understandably suspicious of the motives of a journalist. But younger Ambrose is an almost heartbreakingly tragic figure who seems emotionally unstable to the point of actual mental illness, and who takes his only comfort in his visions of a young native girl he calls Spring Willow. There is also a younger sister, Sally, an unsavory and belligerent cousin, John Turner, and three house guests, elderly widow Mrs. Ambler, and the Bowers, a German couple obsessed with contacting their dead little boys. Silas sits in on a couple of sessions, which he has to admit are remarkable, and he's even able to inspect the spirit cabinet, where he finds no evidence of, hidden boxes or anything that could conceal obvious trickery. But the novel, which runs a clean and efficient 200 pages, soon makes its actual theme evident. The ghosts which truly haunt us are the ones up here, the specters of our own secret sins, and the more guilt we harbor over them, the more intensely haunted we are. Moriah is really more of a tragic family drama than a traditional horror story. It's intensely dark at times, but more from the melancholy that comes from untreated emotional wounds. Silas himself is ridden with guilt for heading off to war, despite the pleas of his wife, who later, while he was gone, set fire to herself and their baby. Additionally, Mrs. Ambler is mourning the child she never had, having made a bad marriage decision in her youth. The loss of children, cutting to the very heart of the whole idea of family stability, is the tragic through line for all these characters, and it's reminiscent in that way of George Saunders' Lincoln in the Bardo. But there is also the dark history of the Lynch family, whose patriarch, Jeremiah, was a violently abusive fundamentalist with the kind of hyper-religious zealotry you could only get from a former alcoholic. His abuses of all the children, including a deceased sister, Rebecca, and especially poor Ambrose, who was beaten so badly that he's deaf in one ear, and his constant headaches and spectral visions are probably the result of brain damage. The novel is almost unbearably sad, as more of Ambrose's past is unspooled, and the fact that Cousin Turner has some sort of additional hold over the brothers looks to spell catastrophe in the very near future. So, I guess I've made all this sound like way too much of a downer. No, it's definitely not the kind of scary movie fun you'll get from something like The Silent Companions or The Rib from Which I Remake the World. It can be a real emotional ringer, but its heavy going is leavened by some rich and exceptional writing in which Mills shows a profound sensitivity and compassion for his characters, and the scars that have marked their lives. Though Silas is his main viewpoint character, Mills gives distinctive voice to each individual, even the late and lamented Rebecca. And while the seances and performances by which the Lynch brothers earned their living may well prove to be flim-flam after all, that doesn't mean that this family isn't haunted by some especially angry ghosts. It's something that they probably have in common with a great many of us. And that's all I got for this episode of SFF180, everybody. Thank you once again for joining me. Remember, the most important thing, these are reviews. You will not always agree with me, but if you enjoyed watching, hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe. If you haven't done so, that is how SFF180 grows as a channel. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's Army for $2 a month get little perks like getting to see some of the videos early, things like that. So I want to thank all those people for their awesome support. I want to thank you for being equally awesome viewers. And remember, I will see you tomorrow night at midnight for the next installment of the 12 Days of Halloween.